Is there even a small grain of truth in the image of weapons in popular shooters, and do the analogues exist in reality? And the main thing, how can computer shooters help to hit the target in reality? From the interview with Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman, one of the authors of the book Do Not Teach Our Children to Kill, to the correspondents of the Weekly Air. Journalist question. Let's talk a little bit about computer shooters. I was shocked to learn from your book that computer simulators, which are used in the US Army and most law enforcement agencies, almost don't differ from some of the most popular games. Grossman's answer. We had to take a little tour of history. During the Second World War, it was suddenly discovered that most of our soldiers were unable to kill the enemy, incapable because of deficiencies in military training. The fact that the soldiers were taught to shoot at painted targets, and there were no such targets at the front at all, their training came to nothing. Very often many soldiers, under the influence of fear, stress and other circumstances, simply could not use weapons. It became clear that soldiers needed to be taught the appropriate skills. Accordingly, there was a need to create simulators with which soldiers would learn to kill, and they ended up being extremely effective. The Marines were licensed to use the Doom game as a tactical simulator. The Army took on the Super Nintendo. Now we have several hundred of these simulators around the world. They've proven to be effective. In this case, our goal is to teach soldiers how to respond to a threat. If they can't open fire, they'll panic and terrible things can happen. The same is true for the police. That's why I think such training is useful. If we give soldiers and policemen weapons, we must teach them how to use them. However, there is no unanimity in society in this issue. Some people are shocked by the rehearsals of manslaughter, even when they are produced by soldiers and policemen. What can we say about the unlimited access of civilians or even children to such simulators? Greetings, welcome. This is New Soldier. As I say, God created man and called equalize them in rights. Today we are talking about weapons in computer games. In this episode we'll try to find out if there are any truth in the image of weapons in popular shooters, and if their analogues are real, and the main thing, how can computer shooters help to hit the target in real life. Let's start. One of the most popular pistols with automatic mechanism is a product of Italian company Beretta. Today it is used by military units of America almost everywhere, pushing the good old Colt 1911A1 onto a dusty shelf. Since the Beretta is now recognized even by a small child, nowadays the creators of video games rarely miss the opportunity to use it. Games of all kinds could see her in the kill simulator Hitman, codename 47. Speaking of which, Colt 1911A1 is not respected by game creators at all. Also, there is a certain person named Clara Croft who never left home without it. You can of course look for the gun in other games, but as a main means of destruction is used only in TR. Glock. Well, this creation of the Austrian company with the same name is known almost by everybody, and if not in games, then certainly in the movies. We even did a special episode about it, but compared to the other weapon, if you don't remember, you'll have to watch it later. Grudge vs Glock. We are not worse. And we'll go on. Today Glock is a common weapon among the guns, and we get our first gun in Half-Life from one of them. Desert Eagle. It was originally developed in Israel military industries as a sports gun. Then it drew the attention of the military. It underwent a number of modifications before the warriors concluded that they didn't need such a gun. Although the toy turned out to be cool, it is in the arms of Counter-Strike players, the girl from Trespasser and the unforgettable Hero Liberator, Chosen One, from Fallout. Trespasser there was also Smith Wesson, model 586. There's something like that in Fallout 2. Pay attention to such rarity as the old Soviet-made Stechkin automatic pistol, or APS. It wasn't in vain that DreamWorks Interactive included it into Trespasser arsenal. Adapted for service with Makarov pistol in 1951, the APS was intended for officers directly involved in combat operations and special units. It possesses qualities inherent to submachine guns and is capable of firing both in single units and in queues, which silence walking fossils and causes acute indigestion of the latter. In addition to these games, the APS is found only in the board game Age of Aquarians, where it makes the way very easy for a young agent. So playing many shooters, you can see that some weapons are used by almost all army special services and commandos from around the world. What kinds of weapon from real life have you seen in computer games, and how realistic was it? Tell us about it in the comments. It turns out that, by the way, not surprisingly, many types of weapons that appear in games very often are so popular in reality, and here's the top 10 of the unpopulars. Number 10. Scorpion with Z61. Everyone knows Scorpion because it's a frequent guest of the games of the Cold War era, including Call of Duty and Perfect Dark. But in fact, Scorpion, although it was produced in huge quantities, was possessed only by the crew of trucks, mechanics, drivers, cooks, etc. The rest of the soldiers had the model AK-47 in their arms. Number 9. Type 100. In games like Call of Duty World at War and Battlefield 1943, we see that the Type 100 submachine gun was one of the most frequently used by the Japanese army. In fact, only 24,000 of these weapons were manufactured, and from the 2 million soldiers of the land of the rising sun, only a very small part of them had weapons. Number 8. Desert Eagle, which we talked about before. This pistol fires cartridges with a larger caliber, 50 Action Express bullets, but in the real world it's too heavy. It weighs about 2 kilograms and too expensive to find a wide range of applications. It's extremely popular to Desert Eagle games, and it's used in the real world very rarely. Number 7. PP-2000. This futuristic machine gun, weighing only 1.4 kg, very often falls into the hands of Russian soldiers in games. In real life, these weapons are rarely found in the arsenal of Russian special forces. Number 6. STG-44. In almost every game dedicated to the theme of the Second World War, there is an STG-44 assault rifle, but of course only in the German troops. STG-44 appeared on the Eastern Front, but definitely not as often as it was shown by the game's authors. Most soldiers has quite primitive model Kar 98K. Number 5. WA-2000. A sniper rifle that often appears in Rainbow Six and Hitman series. The Walther Arms WA-2000 is actually a very accurate rifle, but it gets contaminated so quickly that no army in the world has even been tempted to buy this weapon. As a result, only 172 units of this rifle were produced, and it is very expensive and in demand by collectors from all over the world. Number 4. Ancient KG-11. Guns that appear mostly in stealth element games. And all because of the futuristic image. Heckler appeared in Call of Duty, Black Ops and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. In fact, the G11 is interesting because it uses cartridges without casings. This weapon has never been used in combat due to the problem with uncontrolled shots after pulling the trigger. Number 3. FG-42. We're back to the Second World War again. According to such games as Call of Duty WW2, Battlefield 1942, Return to the Wallstein Castle, Call of Duty World at War and Brothers in Arms, Earned in Blood, the FG-42 rifle was the standard weapon of German soldiers. But it wasn't. The FG-42 appeared in very limited quantity, only 2,000 of these weapons were produced. It also had a very high recoil rate, which made it difficult to fire continuously. Number 2. XM8. The XM8 rifle fits the standard game equipment of most special units, even in the Rainbow Six series. But in the real world, the XM8 remained only in the phase of the prototype, when about 7,000 units were produced, which was to replace the outdated M16 copies. The project related to the development of the XM8 was cancelled in 2005. Number 1. Carbine Type 5, aka Type 4. In 1944, the Japanese were so surprised by the accuracy and efficiency of the American M1 Garand that they tried to make the same weapon for their troops. The rifle with 7.7 mm cartridge was called Carbine Type 5, but prototypes failed so often that rifle makers created only 20 of these weapons. The equipment never appeared on the battlefields. And the Battlefield and Call of Duty series shows that the Type 5 rifle was a standard weapon of Japanese soldiers during the Second World War. But let's go back to the interview with Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman. It is important to distinguish between a game as a fighter simulator and a game as a killing aid for an ordinary citizen or child. First, we put adults in charge of such simulators, said the Lieutenant Colonel. Secondly, the army has strict discipline. Discipline that becomes a part of you. And here murder simulators are given to children. What for? Only for teaching them how to kill and instill a passion for murder in them. Do you think that children should be allowed to play that kind of games, and if so, from what age? Leave your comments below. We should also keep to mind the following facts. Skills in a stressful situation are reproduced automatically. Continues Grossman. A child behind the shooter is no different from a pilot behind the aircraft simulator. Everything that is pumped into them at that moment will then be played automatically. Note that the question also has another side. Video games are the best environment to draw inspiration for creating previously unknown military technology in reality. And here are the living examples of that. The Crying Wolf from Metal Gear Solid 4. Soon after the game was released, an Agency for Advanced Defense Research project within the US Department of Defense showed the world a prototype on experimental four-legged robot that looked like the Crying Wolf boss. In a manner, the real model is even more impressive because it is automated. The Advanced Research Agency has released several models of its four-legged robots, and if the first versions were quite creepy, the last model, which was called Spot, looked quite nice. The quantum computer from Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Many scientists believe that quantum computers in the future will be so powerful that they can easily crack security protocols and find the right passwords in a split second. This way, all modern cybersecurity will be useless, so quantum computers are the nuclear weapons of cyberwar. In 2009, the first quantum processor by one Neumann architecture was created. Since then, several other significant discoveries have been made in this area. A laser cannon from any futuristic game. We agree that computer games can take full responsibility for the idea of inventing a laser, but this technology has appeared in them so often and has been described in such detail that for a person in the know, it's easy to reproduce it in reality. While handheld laser guns seem to be something undeniably far away, like laptops about 30 years ago, Boeing company is currently testing the combat mobile laser, LMD. The weapon is capable of hitting missiles, detonating them in airspace. In addition, it travels in a special vehicle that runs on diesel fuel. You have to admit it's much more economical than the $100,000 required for an air defense missile. The reinforced exoskeleton from Metal Gear Solid 4. Creating technology for today's US soldiers is closer to science fiction than ever before. It's not Raiden's Ninja exoskeleton yet, but it already looks like Snake's outfit. A soft exosuit envelops the wearer's waist and legs, and the fabric is filled with sensors and microprocessors that constantly monitor muscle movements and physical activity. These processors release additional energy when they realize that you need to move faster or go a long way tirelessly. By the way, exoskeleton can be used not only in the military sphere, they can also help people with physical disabilities. The railgun from Quake. These ominous naval weapons rely on electromagnetic force, launching projectiles instead of gunpowder. At these, they fly several times faster and faster than practicing mechanisms. In addition, railgun ammo is much cheaper and safer to operate. Homing barrels from Borderlands 2. In fact, this kind of ammunition has existed in video games over the past decades, starting with the old Contra. Self-directed barrels have already been developed in reality, but in order to distance themselves from the undoubtedly ideological inspirer, they are now called driven barrel, or to make the product attractive to consumers, smart barrel. Of course, such a barrel works with a special rifle that contains a guidance system. Once the system has tracked the target, the sniper only needs to shoot in a more or less correct direction, and the barrel will follow the target, like an angry wasp with an overly painful bite. The grenade launcher with airborne shell from Battlefield 4. The projectile fired from XM-25 are programmed to explode in the air above their target. Like most BF-4 guns, the XM-25 is a real thing, and it was used in combat operations in Afghanistan. However, security problems in the handling of the grenade launcher forced the US government to suspend funding for the project. But this weapon continues to blow everything up in other video games. Perhaps the US military is waiting for gamers to add a new feature to the XM-25 that will bring it back into service. It should be noted that the best weapon concepts still exist only in video games. Maybe because the use in virtual warfare is more carefree and safe than in real life. That's it. Do you know any other interesting technologies? Tell us about them in the comments below. And don't forget to discuss what you've seen in the video today. And we say goodbye until the next episode.